Comedian Michael Richards, best known for his iconic role as Cosmo Kramer on Seinfeld, unleashed a racist tirade during a 2006 stand-up comedy routine that went viral and essentially ended his career. After retreating from public life for more than 15 years, Richards is now breaking his silence to reflect on the scandal in a new tell-all memoir. Join Factsverse as we explore his rise and fall, the details of the outburst, and his candid revelations. Rise to fame. Before Michael Richards was known to millions as the zany, kinetically charged Cosmo Kramer, he spent years honing his talents as a stand-up and character actor. Though he had an interest in performing since childhood, he initially pursued sports in school. After sustaining an injury, he turned his focus fully to acting and enrolled in theater programs in California. He cut his teeth on the LA comedy circuit in the late 70s, developing an offbeat, high-energy style. His big break came in 1980 when he was cast as a series regular on ABC's sketch comedy show Fridays. Though only on air for 3 seasons, Fridays became a cult favorite for its irreverent sensibility and talented ensemble of comedians. Richards made his mark through outrageous characters and commitment to physical comedy. Throughout the 80s, he landed roles in various films and TV shows that allowed him to showcase his skills at broad comedy. He often played quirky supporting characters or parody versions of stock characters. Films like Transylvania 65000, Problem Child, and So I Married an Axe Murderer capitalized on Richards' knack for over-the-top humor. He also made guest appearances on several hit sitcoms like Cheers, Night Court, Miami Vice, and Hill Street Blues. Then in 1989, he was cast as Cosmo Kramer on NBC's newest sitcom, The Seinfeld Chronicles. Though it debuted to low ratings, the show soon rebranded as Seinfeld and became one of the most acclaimed and successful sitcoms in TV history. As Jerry's eccentric next-door neighbor, Kramer was loud, unpredictable, and downright bizarre, but always hilarious. His creative comedic instincts helped him develop the most surreal storylines and hijinks for Kramer week after week. The character's outlandish entrances, get-rich-quick schemes, quirky habits, and album of wacky friends made Kramer stand out as a truly original sitcom creation. Thanks to Seinfeld's popularity, Richards won 3 Emmy Awards for his portrayal of Kramer, considered one of the great sitcom characters ever. Along with the fame he gained, he also earned millions thanks to his back-end points deal. At the height of Seinfeld mania in the mid-90s, he had truly joined the ranks of celebrity. The Laugh Factory Incident. On November 17, 2006, Michael Richards took to the stage for a stand-up comedy set at the famous Laugh Factory in Hollywood. Though he had largely stepped back from stand-up since finding fame on Seinfeld, Richards was attempting to reconnect with his roots in edgy, uncensored comedy. For the first 15 minutes, his set was going smoothly, amusing the crowd with his signature quirky energy. But a group of young men entered the club in the middle of his act, talking loudly and clearly drunk. Their disruptive behavior annoyed Richards, who told him to quiet down. But the men began heckling Richards, shouting explicit remarks. He tried to ignore them and continue his set, but the heckling continued. Losing his cool, he snapped back at the men, using racial slurs and profanity to tell them to shut up. Each time the men responded, Richards would hurl another offensive reference as the crowd grew more and more shocked. The extreme nature of his remarks, including repeated use of the N-word, created an uncomfortable tension in the room. For a brief period, some audience members laughed nervously, assuming it was some kind of obscure satirical act. It quickly became clear Richards was not joking or performing, he was angrily lashing out with no filter. As he continued his tirade, the crowd turned on him, booing and shouting at him to leave the stage. After a minute, he walked off, leaving confusion and outrage in his wake. The next morning, reports emerged that someone had recorded his racist rant on a phone camera. The video spread rapidly across the early viral video hubs of the internet. Soon his hateful words were being broadcast nationwide, and media outlets were covering the story extensively. Seemingly overnight, Richards went from beloved comedy icon to racist pariah. The public backlash was intense, with demands for Richards to be dropped from future projects. Civil rights leaders denounced him, networks scrambled to distance themselves, and fans tried reconciling their image of zany Kramer with this ugly display. The aftermath. Michael Richards found himself embroiled in a public relations crisis as anger mounted over his use of racial slurs. He quickly issued a public apology, expressing regret for losing his temper and using such hateful language. but his rambling apology on The Late Show with David Letterman was criticized for seeming forced and insincere. It soon became clear the repercussions for Richards would be severe. Reruns of Seinfeld were pulled from the air, his guest spots on Tim Allen's show were canceled, and offers for new roles dried up immediately. He became a pariah in Hollywood, with public perception shifting from beloved comedy star to racist villain. Fellow comedians expressed disappointment, some defending Richards by saying he just lost control in the heat of the moment. But for many in the entertainment industry, the rant confirmed suspicions that he harbored genuinely racist attitudes behind the scenes. Civil rights activists like Al Sharpton publicly condemned him, making it difficult for Richards to mount a comeback. Close friends like Jerry Seinfeld stood by Richards, believing he deserved a chance for redemption. But networks wanted nothing to do with the tarnished star. His plans for a Kramer spin-off show were scrapped, and his comedy tour was canceled. In 2007, less than a year after the incident, he announced his retirement from stand-up comedy. For the next years, he kept a low profile, only briefly resurfacing for a 2009 Seinfeld reunion on Curb Your Enthusiasm, where the show addressed the controversy tongue-in-cheek. He largely stepped back from public life, avoiding interviews and focusing on his personal relationships. He struggled to re-establish himself professionally, taking only sporadic acting roles. The guest spots and hosting gigs he relied on previously were no longer options. Though Richards has apologized many times, some will always see him as an unforgivable bigot. Reflections and regrets. In his memoir, Richards offers an intimate look at his mindset and emotional state in the aftermath of the damaging scandal. He describes the incident as a personal rock bottom that left him riddled with shame, guilt, and regret. For years, he grappled internally with how his split-second loss of control during a moment of anger could have such devastating consequences. He opens up about the personal turmoil that followed the controversy. He conveys the deep distress he felt knowing he had hurt so many with his words, while grappling with public scorn and career fallout. He mentions entering a depressive period where he questioned his own character and values. The backlash stirred up painful self-doubt as he realized the full weight of his actions. According to Richards, the fallout sparked a years-long spiritual quest to make sense of what happened. He describes engaging in intense soul-searching, meeting with faith leaders, and educating himself on racial justice. This period of reflection led him to gain a greater understanding of the historical pain triggered by his rant. Now it's time to hear from you. What are your thoughts about his actions, and should he be redeemed at any point? Let us know in the comments section below.